Welcome to The Explainer. So, picture this. You're standing on a quiet Australian coastline, looking out over that vast, seemingly endless water. You kind of have to wonder what's truly out there, right? It's a profound feeling. Standing right there at what feels like the edge of the world, you find yourself facing a pretty massive question about the future. Today, we're diving right into exactly that, unpacking what's been called Australia's Great Gamble.
Basically, does that horizon bring safety, or is there a storm gathering? Now, fun fact, Australia has fought alongside the United States in every single major conflict since World War I. For decades, we've comfortably looked across the Pacific at that great protector. And let's be real, it's an alliance that has totally shaped the nation for a century. But today, well, that horizon is looking fundamentally different. We're at this profound crossroads, caught between the comforting echoes of a 100-year-old alliance and the cold, hard reality of a rapidly changing world. So we have to ask, is that historical relationship actually still a safe bet?
Okay, let's dive into this with part one, the AUKUS promise. When we hear about this pact in the news, it's almost always framed around a monumental industrial effort. We're talking massive amounts of steel, complex engineering, and literally billions upon billions of dollars. It's a pact that's meant to completely solidify defense for the next generation.
And the absolute centerpiece, the crown jewel of this massive investment, is the Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarine. Procuring these incredible machines is a move specifically designed to totally redefine Australia's defense capabilities on the global stage.
Look, we're not just talking about a simple upgrade here. We're talking about a total paradigm shift. These vessels have virtually infinite range and endurance. They can glide through the deep ocean for months at a time without ever needing to surface. Strategically, this specific capability allows the military to hold adversaries at risk from a massive distance. It projects power way, way beyond our own shores.
Now, the government maintains a highly optimistic stance on this pact. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese actually calls this acquisition, quote, the single biggest leap in our defense history. The core belief driving this is that getting our hands on this immense, cutting-edge power is exactly what will secure the nation's future in an otherwise unpredictable region.
But, to fully understand the source material here, we absolutely have to look at the other side of the coin. Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull offers a much starker perspective. He warns that there are, quote, billions committed without a single guarantee we will ever receive a submarine. It's a heavy critique. He points out a glaring vulnerability in the whole plan. We're pouring massive funds into US shipyards to build up their capacity, but if Washington suddenly decides its own naval needs have to come first, well, Australia might just be left holding an empty bag.
Which naturally brings us to our next core theme, the cost of sovereignty. Because according to several strategists, we aren't just trading money for submarines. We are paying a very heavy, unseen price for this specific defense posture. Historically, the strategic thinking behind Australia's northern approach was that it functioned kind of like a giant moat, a natural geographic barrier keeping us safe. But experts like David Kilcullen are sounding the alarm. They warn that by deeply integrating military bases, places like RAF Tyndall and HMAS Sterling, into America's war planning, the result is completely different. The critique here is that we aren't fortifying a moat. We're effectively building a bridge right across it. And in doing so, we might actually be making ourselves a much bigger target. By locking into a foreign power's military strategy, the concern highlighted in the sources is that we're essentially gifting a continent to their apparatus.
And that leads into part three, the human cost. Because beyond all the strategic maps and naval fleets, we really need to step back and look at the real-world implications of modern warfare. Behind every tactical maneuver, there's a grim human reality that, frankly, often goes unmentioned in those neat little policy documents.
175. That is the number of children at a girls' school in Iran who lost their lives to a targeting error. Just recently, the world saw the devastating face of this new reality as old certainties collapsed in real time, and the sky over Tehran was suddenly filled with the fire of 200 aircraft. In the detached corridors of political power, an airstrike might be casually brushed off as a short-term excursion or a tactical adjustment. But for those families standing in the literal rubble of that school, it was the absolute end of their world. It's a stark, heavy reminder of the ultimate and irreversible weight of committing to international conflicts.
This brings us to a whole new era of global leadership. transactional alliances. We're currently seeing a profound shift, where history and shared values are basically taking a back seat to immediate gains, and it's fundamentally altering how nations interact.
The provided sources outline a massive shift, driven primarily by America First policies. They point out that when leaders use what critics describe as apocalyptic rhetoric or operate as an audacious gaslighter on the world stage, it signals a total reshaping of diplomacy. Old alliances, they're no longer seen as unbreakable historical bonds. Instead, they're viewed almost like transactional insurance policies. It's become a zero-sum game of strength and power, where every single relationship is weighed strictly by what it can deliver today, not tomorrow.
So that brings us to a pretty pivotal question. Is our sovereignty truly secure if the key to our defense is literally kept in a desk in Washington? While some strategists argue that aligning with unpredictable leaders, what critics in our source text call cozying up to a madman, is just a necessary evil of modern security, we have to ask, does relying so heavily on a purely transactional partner actually make anyone safer?
Finally, we arrive at the last piece of the puzzle, the path forward. Because if the current trajectory carries this much inherent risk and this much reliance on foreign powers, is there actually a viable alternative to this massive geopolitical gamble?
Well, alternatives do in fact exist. Take a look at nations like Mexico. When faced with intense external pressure and threats, President Claudia Sheinbaum didn't react by scrambling for favor or just capitulating to demands. Instead, the alternative approach she took was one of unapologetic firmness, deeply focused on mutual understanding. It's a prime real-world case study of how a nation can respond to geopolitical threats while resolutely maintaining its own agency and self-respect.
So, how exactly do we apply that lesson here? The sources outline a very clear vision for true self-reliance. First off, we have to have the resolve to stand on our own 2 feet. Second, we must actively treat our Pacific neighbors as family, not just convenient strategic staging grounds for foreign military ambitions. And finally, true security requires internal confidence, not just having the best, most advanced kit that money can buy. It really begs the question, what could we actually achieve in this world if we weren't quite so afraid?
As that horizon shifts right before our eyes, we have a profound choice to make. We can choose to remain a silent partner in someone else's war, letting our future be dictated by transactional alliances. Or we can find the courage to truly define our own destiny. The question isn't just can we trust America? The real question, the ultimate question we all need to deeply consider is, can we trust ourselves?